Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Ravva and the Cyclops Curse for the PC. The game was released in 2019 and was developed by Gallop Studios and published by the Hidden Levels. The game is an old school style retro platformer which involves magical wizard owls and summons creatures. But is it any good or not? Here's what Ravva and the Cyclops Curse is all about. The game's story tells you of how a magical wizard once fought off against an evil being who sought to take their summoned creatures for themselves. The summoner lost the battle and ended up becoming encased in stone and trapped. This is where the summoner's child comes into play and where our adventure truly begins. As a young summoner, you'll go on a quest across deadly lands, face off against monsters, and eventually find yourself at the demon's castle, all in the hopes of defeating them and freeing your trapped mother. The story is nice, and I really did like how at the very start it explains everything straight away in a colourful and beautiful cutscene, as I really wasn't expecting this for an 8-bit style retro game. Character-wise, the game's focus is on you, the young summoner, and you travel across the lands fighting off against many monsters until you reach the game's end boss. The game's characters, while there, such as your mother and the end level boss and yourself, while present, you're never really told that much about them. This is however part of what the 8-bit series was all about, as everything back then was rather limited as to what it could do and produce. You would be given a brief introduction to the characters and a short explanation of what was happening, and that would essentially be it. Much like those 8-bit games of the past, this method has remained here as well. It is simple, but it is effective in the way that it explains the story and the characters in its cutscenes, and it is done rather well, because you do really get a feel for each of the characters, even though you're not really told that much about them. The gameplay for the Cyclops Curse is something rather different, and something which I was rather surprised worked quite well. Think Super Mario for the NES, add in Elisa Dragoon for the Mega Drive, and then put random bits in from the likes of the Mega Man series and Castlevania, and mix them all together, and you end up with something like this game's gameplay. While as a summoner you can use your staff to fire projectiles, but then you also have the ability to summon several summons creatures, who each have their own individual powers, such as fire and ice. You're going to need to master all of these abilities in order to survive the game, as it is rather difficult at times, with the difficulty spikes going up and down at random on various levels at various points. You're also going to have to deal with deadly traps, several enemies all on screen at once, which can get a bit overwhelming at times, and also end level bosses, and a time limit which is always constantly ticking down. The game itself is based on the old school style graphics from my era, and this is from the time of the Sega Master System and the Nintendo Entertainment System. So graphics and gameplay wise, everything looks and feels like games from that era. The game is a 2D 8-bit styled game, but one that can also surprise you by showing cutscenes and character interactions. Looks wise, I personally think that the game is done very beautifully, and I think everything is done well because it is meant to represent those games from the 8-bit era, and it does a perfect job of recreating all that and making you forget that you're actually playing on a PC. As personally, while I was playing this game, it did make me reminisce of times when I used to stay up late as a child playing on my old Master System 1 console. The levels in the Cyclops Curse are split into stages, much like that of the Sonic the Hedgehog games, where you'll have 2 main levels and then an end level boss stage. Each level is filled with various monsters which you're going to need to defeat, has traps which you'll need to avoid, and has puzzles that you'll need to figure out in order to finish the level that you're on. The levels also offer you a choice of speedrunning or exploration. While speedrunning is an option, you also have the option to explore instead, with both choices resulting in a reward. So it gives you a choice of basically having 2 methods of play. So, would I recommend Ravva and the Cyclops Curse? Should you buy it, or should you avoid it altogether? The truth is that this game isn't made for everyone. It's more realistically made for people like myself, who grew up with these type of games as our bread and butter on our old Sega Master Systems and NES consoles when we were little. The game, at its heart, is a retro 8-bit style love letter to games and consoles of that past era. And it's made for people like myself who will really appreciate all the little things that this game has to offer. That's not to say that newer gamers of today's era won't like this game. I do hope that they do like it and they'll enjoy it for what it is and what it has to offer. But I personally just don't feel like it's suited to those type of gamers, as I don't feel that they'll appreciate it as much as gamers of my age would. Ravva and the Cyclops Curse is a great platformer which has many nods to past games which I grew up while playing, one which I would highly recommend, but one which I would really only recommend to old gamers who grew up with these type of games. If you are a newer gamer, I do suggest you give it a try and see how you feel about it, but I don't think that it will be for everyone. Ravva and the Cyclops Curse is a great game which I highly enjoyed from start to finish, and one which I hope that many other gamers out there will enjoy too. Well, that's it for this video guys, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.